Mythology from the omnibus. Myths or lies? Jack insisted to his friend as they strolled alongside a river. He continued, I love reading the myths and have done so since I was a boy. Still, they're lies and therefore worthless, even though breathed through the silver. John paused for a moment and then responded, No, they're not lies. As if to punctuate John's response, at the moment, a sudden rush of wind came up on the still warm evening, sending leaves pattering down around them. John continued with his answer. The myths, though they contain error, also reflect a splintered fragment of true life and eternal truth that is with God. The two friends continued the walk, and the conversation, which had begun with dinner, continued on until 4 o'clock in the morning. These events took place on September 19th, 1931. You are probably quite familiar with the two men, John and Jack. You know John as J.R.R. Tolkien, and Jack was the name that his friend C.S. Lewis went by. Great literature grew out of the friendship, discussions, and even arguments of these two friends. Their literary works grew out of their love for mythology. What are myths? And what role do they play in our education? Are myths lies? Or do they have some truths to teach us? Do they, in fact, contain some splintered fragment of true light? If we had a time machine, maybe we could go back and listen to Tolkien and Lewis discussing mythology. We all know you can't do that. And further, if you stayed up until 4 in the morning with Jack and John, you would likely fall asleep during math class. General information, author, and context. What do you want to do when you retire? What do you hope for when you're 90? You probably do not think much about these things. Yet, Edith Hamilton's greatest accomplishment came after her retirement, and her greatest honor came at the age of 90. Hamilton, who lived from 1868 to 1963, grew up in a home filled with literature and languages. She and her siblings played games about King Arthur's knights or the siege of Troy. Edith was a born reader with a phenomenal memory and a gift for telling stories. A cousin remembered her at the age 13, combing her hair while reading a book written in Greek. Being schooled in the days before classical learning fell from academic graces, Hamilton read Greek and Latin classics just for pleasure all her life. After graduating from Bryn Mawr College, she became the first female admitted to the University of Munich. For 26 years, Edith was the head mistress of the Bryn Mawr School for Girls, where she won the hearts of her students and raised the school's prestige. After retiring, Mrs. Hamilton began sharing her love of classical literature with her friends, who soon insisted that she write. And at age 63, her first book, The Greek Way, came out. Other books followed, including The Roman Way, The Echo of Greece, and in 1942, Mythology, her most popular book. Her writings earned her numerous awards, but her highest honor came when, at age 90, she traveled to Athens and received the honorary citizenship of the city she had so long loved. Significance. One of the best-kept secrets in school is how much fun learning literature is. More than just fun, literature enlarges our capacity to understand ourselves and the world. Literature is more fun than riding a roller coaster. However, the fun part of literature requires some time and effort. The enjoyment of literature grows out of reading plenty of literature. The whole shelf of separate books you can see in a library is all part of a web or network. To better understand the recent books, you have to go back to the sources. The two main sources for our literature are the Bible and mythology, particularly Greek mythology. Without an awareness of mythology, you cannot understand the ancient, medieval, or modern literature. Without an awareness of mythology, you will not understand numerous literary references or some Bible verses, such as Acts 14:12. Look it up. Handbooks of mythology are useful, but they usually leave out the poetic and narrative features of mythology. For the myths are stories, some of the greatest stories, in fact, ever told. Mythology can be considered as a short story collection, a reference book, and a guide to our understanding ourselves and others. Having a knowledge of mythology at one's fingertips is an intellectual benefit in many ways. Myths are parable-like. Myths are philosophical. Myths are psychological insights into the mind. Myths are pictures of the dangers of pride, ambition, and passion. In reading mythology, you will see the kinds of stories you learn from the daily newspaper. However, you will remember the myths.